Do you keep coming across the term binding agent and wonder, what does this mean? What is a binding agent and how do I use it to make my barbecue and meat the best there is? Keep watching this video and you'll find out. You will come across the term binding agent regularly when scanning through recipes on barbecue and smoking, but they'll rarely tell you what the actual binding agent is used for and why you use it. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe to support our channel. Binding agent is a term referring to a wet agent that you use to coat your meat before you put a rub on, right? And the reason why we use it is so that you can actually get the spices that you're putting on your meat to stick and create a nice crust when you cook it. You have different types of binding agents. I've got a selection of a few here that we regularly use. And for different uses as well, right? So I'll take you through what each is used for and why I would use it on a specific cut of meat. So while we recommend using a binding agent, it's not necessary if you don't really want to, right? So binding agents we use because it actually helps the spices stick to the meat and it gives you the great crust. But if you don't want to use a binding agent, you can still put your spices on the meat without having the binding agent. It just means a lot of the time the spices will fall off the meat when it's cooking, right? And that's flavor lost. So what we like to do is, my personal favorite is Dijon mustard and yellow mustard or American mustard. I use this on pretty much all of my low and slow cooking, including some reverse seared steaks as well. So, Dijon mustard, perfect on a ribeye. If you want to do a reverse seared ribeye, we can put the Dijon mustard on and then after that coat it with some of our SPG or smoky espresso, and you reverse sear it. It is unbelievable and creates a very good tasty crust on the meat. When I'm doing low and slow brisket or pork ribs or beef ribs, I like to use American mustard or mayonnaise. The mayonnaise is probably not my favorite because it doesn't really give me that flavor that I'm looking for, but a lot of people swear by it. Nothing against them, they can do it if they want. But my favorite is American mustard with a nice peppery rub on a brisket or on beef ribs. That for me is the best. And then if you're short on some of the sauces, olive oil is always a great option, right? So just any type of olive oil, doesn't have to be a super expensive one. Olive oil on any type of meat helps with the letting the spices coat the meat and stick to the meat as you need. Other people use water. If you just take a bit of water and coat it over very lightly, you can also use it as a binder as well with no flavor addition to the meat. So things to consider when you're choosing a binding agent for your meat. The main thing I consider is what type of rub you're using, right? So if you're using a rub that is high in salt, you want to balance that with your binding agent. If you're using a rub that's high in sugar, you want to balance that with your binding agent as well. Worst thing you can do is go and use a binding agent that's high in sugar, like a barbecue sauce, and then put a very sweet rub on top of it. You're just going to overpower it with sugar. Same thing with salt. If you go and you use a binding agent of soy sauce, for example, which some people do, and then you go and you put a salty rub on, it's going to overpower the meat and it's just going to be very salty. So what I like to do, obviously, with high salty rubs, like for, say, a brisket, if you're using an SPG type rub, that's why I like to use the American mustard. It's not sweet, it's not salty, it's just a American mustard taste, and that really balances out with the saltiness. If you're doing pork ribs, for example, where you want to use a bit of a sweeter rub most of the time, if you're looking at, say, Memphis-style pork ribs, a lot of the rubs that we use on pork ribs are high sugar. So using something like an olive oil or the mustard again will help balance that sweetness out. And that is why a lot of people do like to use the mayonnaise. The mayonnaise is a very neutral type flavor, so it actually lets the rub and the meat do the main talking when it comes to the flavor. And so the mayo doesn't overpower it at all. So no matter which binding agent you decide to use, pair it up with your favorite Big Dog Spices product and take your barbecue to the next level.